Special coverage from the New Orleans Investment Conference is brought to you by Victoria Gold, leading Yukon's new gold rush. Welcome back to the New Orleans Investment Conference. Welcome back to Soar Financially. My name is Kai Hoffmann. I'm the JR Mining Guy on Twitter and the CEO of the Soar Financial Group. Thanks so much for joining us here. We got a great discussion lined up here with Jeff Clark, founder of the Gold Advisor, author of the book Pay Dirt, a guide on investing in junior mining.
Yeah.
Jeff, it's great to see you in person again.
Oh, it's great to be here, Kai. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Love our conversations every single time.
Great.
And let's start by setting the scene a little bit, because your conversation, your presentation topic here at this conference is, are juniors dead, or will the 10 baggers become 20 baggers? With the premise is this a 100-year opportunity?
That's a bold question to ask that, but I started looking back at when the mining industry has been this depressed. Sentiment is obviously poor. Everybody knows it. It feels like it keeps just getting worse. The stocks keep falling, most of them. So I looked back, and the only other comparable I could find was the nuclear 90s. If you remember, it was called that because gold and silver were dead then, and the stocks couldn't move. They were falling. Miners couldn't make any money that were in production. And yet what we have today is, in terms of stock prices, in terms of sentiment, is actually at least comparable to then or worse than then. And before then, you got to go back, the gold price was fixed and all that, but you got to go back to the Great Depression to find a time where gold stocks were so depressed and yet soared after. So I think this is potentially a 100-year opportunity, which means that even though you're full, you might have to clean up your portfolio, grab some cash, and try to take advantage of this opportunity on a limited basis. You don't want to mortgage the house. But I do believe this could be actually a 100-year opportunity for mining stock investors.
Let's start backfilling that statement a bit, because again, lots going on. We're here at an investment conference that's very much focused on hard assets and gold, obviously. Let's set the scene. Let's describe the current environment we're in that makes you so bullish and bold enough to come out with a title like that.
Well, obviously, it's mining stocks selling off that have reached new all-time lows. As one example, there's a company I recommend whose infrastructure alone is worth 4 to 5 times more than the current market cap. And that excludes the resource and all the drilling and the fact that it's going to grow. You could look at a lot of companies like that, especially juniors or larger juniors, pre-producers that have assets that really just are incredibly oversold. And it's not just one. I'm not cherry picking. This is obviously across the industry. There are exceptions. There are some great exceptions. We always see that even in bear markets, we always see stocks that do very well. But for the most part, most are dramatically oversold. Even looking at their charts, reaching new all-time lows, things like that. That's what I base it on.
Does your thesis require a much higher gold price, or would that work at 1980 gold?
Tommy Costa has a great chart on the venture of where most of the explorers live that a lot of us like to invest in. It shows the gold price, and it shows the venture index over the past, I think it's 20 years. And the venture index would have to rise 475% just to match its 2007 high and reach fair value for the current gold price where it is now. Not at new all-time highs, where it is now. But what happens when the gold price does rise? And what happens when silver catches up and really ignites? That 475%, you need to add to that. That's the kind of thing that I'm basing it on. And, it's not going to take much volume. In September, the venture index had the lowest volume in 10 years that month. The lowest volume in 10 years. So you just add a little bit of volume, these stocks are going to start to go.
Well, what do you see as potential triggers for that, for that to set off? Because I think that's the billion-dollar question here, I guess. What could kick off a rally? If you look around all the macroeconomic factors we're looking at, being it, unfortunately, war, being it a U.S. market crash, bond yields crashing or skyrocketing, what are the triggers for that?
Well, it could be all the things that you described,
Do you have a favorite trigger?
Well, obviously, the U.S. dollar and the Fed rate hike cycle has been a deterrent for gold because we've been surrounded by catalysts. Gold has been surrounded by catalysts, and, it's near all-time highs. It hasn't really faltered that much. It was actually up, I think, 2% last year. Didn't feel that way. but it actually was.
12% year to date.
And it's 12%.
Or year over year, sorry. Year over year.
Year over year, okay, great. So a lot of people don't realize that because that does not feel that way, because we feel like it should be higher because we are surrounded by catalysts. So
The GDX, by the way, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
The GDX is also up 6% year over year.
yeah, great.
Which is absolutely mind-blowing, by the way, based on sentiment.
That's very true, yeah. My thesis is wait till that's 60%. I think at some point that's what we're looking at, just to reasonably catch up to where they should be fairly valued. Real quick, it could be any of those catalysts that you name, U.S. dollar rate hike cycle ending and maybe then lowering rates. But I looked back at all the crises we've had over the past, I think it was like 30 or 40 years, or longer than that. Anyway, I looked at all of them, and I realized that we had one every 3 years on average. On average. Okay? But here's the thing that I discovered. I was examining each one, and I realized that of all those crises, roughly half were black swans. They weren't things we were expecting. And who expected a pandemic? So I think we need to be prepared for the fact that it may be something nobody's really looking at. This is probably going to be the most telegraphed recession in history, right? So maybe it won't be the recession that triggers. Gold tends to rise in recessions. We know that. Gold stocks, believe it or not, have risen in 5 of the 8 last recessions in the U.S. That's amazing. Most people don't realize that. So I think we're entering into a time period where you definitely want to own gold, and you might want to take advantage of the extreme undervaluation we have with many very quality miners.
What companies are you looking at? When you say miners, of course, we're talking about explorers, developers. What's your favorite type of company to look at? Where's the most torque?
On the website is a prospector holding up a gold nugget he found out of a gold pan. So I'm obviously, looking for the exploration plays more than anything else. Companies that have a resource, I like those because they're a little more stable. Many of those are just dramatically undervalued and oversold, so I like those because we know now they have a resource and it's probably going to grow and eventually either be bought out or go into production. But yeah, I'm focusing more on the juniors. So my portfolio is down like a lot of people's just because I'm heavily focused in that arena. Not all of them have. We've had some pretty good winners, but the majority are obviously down. So, but that's okay. I understand history. I understand cycles, gold stock cycle. The next up cycle or the next cycle is up.
Yeah.
So I'm not lamenting where we are. I don't like it, but I'm actually preparing for the next upturn. That's my focus right now.
Are you selling anything right now? When you say preparing, means you need to make some room in a portfolio, or you might have to generate cash. I'm not sure about the situation there, but
my general thing there is what I'm doing, and that is I'm looking at my portfolio and I'm examining each stock individually, each company, and asking the hard question: in the next gold upturn, is this company going to participate in that? And they have to be moving their projects forward in order to, they have to have the 2 C's, cash and catalyst, moving their projects forward. If they're not, you might have to sell and sell for a loss. You want the strongest. What if I told you had to cut your mining stock portfolio in half? You have to cut it in half.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying you have to do that. What I'm saying is if you go through that exercise, though, it actually kind of, reinforces in your mind what really makes a strong stock, what you think the strongest are in your portfolio that'll participate in the next upturn. That's what I'm looking at. So
you're obviously also the author of Pay Dirt, really, really good book on junior mining investing. What's the biggest lesson that you can apply right now? Like, from that book, what's the most applicable thing? Like, if you were to go paragraph or this page this part,
well, you have. It is a how-to book, and it's designed for the retail investor. So it's straightforward, it's very clear, tells you exactly what to do, exactly what not to do. There are 16 other people in the book, so I actually wrote the book and presented to some people back then with Mike Maloney's firm. It circulated, and nobody really commented. And then finally someone said, Jeff, this is good, but it's a little boring. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly right. So I had to go back and rewrite it. And they hired me an editor, which was a good friend of mine. And we completely redesigned the book. And so it's actually fun to read in parts. It's entertaining, but it's very clear what you do. And I interviewed 16 other people in the industry, from geologists to CEOs to financiers, got their input on what to look for. So I think it's very helpful in that. But one thing, we have a couple companies that have soared pretty much, a lot. So we had to ask the question, okay, should we take profits? And then the other lesson is you got to focus on who the best of best are, and the book really zeroes in on that for you. It really does.
Fantastic. Where can we find the book?
It's on Amazon. The paperback is on Amazon, but you can go to our website, thegoldadvisor.com/Pater, and you'll see the options for buying. You can get it digitally. You can get an ebook like on your Kindle. You can order the paperback if you want. So it's all there on the website.
Fantastic. Jeff, fantastic insights. Really appreciate you stopping by here at the booth here in New Orleans, and all the best. And I'll probably see you around the next couple of days.
Absolutely. And let's see where we are at this conference next year. I think sentiment could turn by then, and we could be starting to have more fun.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning into Soar Financially here live from the New Orleans Investment Conference. Really appreciate your feedback. Leave some comments below, hit that like button, and smash that subscribe button if you haven't done so. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we'll be back with lots more. Thank you.